All right, what is up, everyone? My name is Chris, and today I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons with Flyers defenseman Shayne Gostisbehere and why I think the Flyers should not trade him. All right, so I've just decided that since I've been going through all this off-season stuff, I wanted to do a couple of these player profiles. I did the live stream on Voracek, and I got a comment actually in that, like my thoughts on Gostisbehere, and I also got comments like before that, and this was actually kind of like months ago, about Ghost and what I think they should do. So I decided I thought to myself that I haven't even done a video on this. I have to, because it's a very good topic, and I think there's a lot of things that go into it. So like, Ghost has been one of my favorite players. I mean, many of you know this. I became a fan in the 2012-13 season, which was the lockout season. Played 48 games, East versus East, West versus West, yada yada yada. And basically, I was 12 when Ghost came into the league in the 15-16 season, when he started with the Flyers. He played 2 games in 14-15 with the Flyers, and I honestly don't even really remember them. I was 11 at the time. I was in 6th grade, and that was the year I had the partial season ticket plan. Thanks, Dad. And we went to, I believe, 17 games, 16 home, 1 away. It was a great experience, and that was the most games I've ever been to in a season. But off of all that fan stuff, Ghost that season, in 15-16, 64 games played, 17 goals, 29 assists, 46 points, plus 8. And the Flyers made the playoffs that season versus Washington. He had 2 points and 4 penalty minutes. But even still, I mean, Ghost, that season, he was top 3 in the Calder. Panarin ended up winning it. I personally believe that Ghost should have won. But honestly, if McDavid was not hurt, and Brendan Manning injured him that season, if McDavid wasn't hurt, he probably would have won. But Panarin was unreal, Ghost was unreal. I just believe Ghost should have won because I'm a Flyers fan and because he's a defenseman. But even still, to get off of all that rookie talk, that next season, 16-17, 76 games played, 7 goals, 32 assists, 39 points, so a 7-point drop. And he's a minus 21. The team was absolutely atrocious that season. That was the 50th year anniversary, and they were awful. Next season, 17-18, 78 games played, 13 goals, 52 assists, 65 points, most ever as a Flyer. He's a plus 10. Made the playoffs that season versus Pittsburgh. He had a goal. He only had 1 goal, 1 point, 4 penalty minutes. 18-19, 78 games played, 9 goals, 28 assists, 37 points. And he was a minus 20. Obviously, the team was atrocious, and they did not make the playoffs that season. So, you see where this is going with the stats. He's basically up and down, up and down. He was very good, had kind of an off season in 16-17, had an off season, and then 17-18 has a really good season, his best ever as a Flyer. So it's like, he still has that potential. I know he does. The thing is with him is that I think his confidence is shot, because when I saw it in the beginning of this season, and even last season I saw it, he wasn't playing that great, which is why he was a minus 20, and the team wasn't good either. They just couldn't play defense to save their lives, and that was the whole story. And obviously all they used goalies and stuff like that, but he just was off, and I noticed it very early in the season, and he could just never get back to that same player that I knew he was. And it started again because there was trade rumors last season. His name was getting thrown around with the trade rumors around, like, I believe it was the Stadium Series, and around it was kind of around the same thing with Simmons. It was like Simmons, Ghost, Raffle. What are they going to do with them? No one really knew. It was like no one really knew what was going to happen. And it wasn't just the Stadium Series either. It was really throughout the whole season. His name was kind of getting thrown around. And he continued that into this season, because you guys saw the whole behind the glass thing that they did. That the NHL made that little like 4-part series for the 4-episode series. I'm actually in that, which is pretty cool. But he says in an interview that, like, all the stuff with the trade rumors, I said, this is still on this guy. I said, he's still taking this to heart. And I'm like, man, it's his confidence. That's what it is. And I think that it's shot. It's just, it sucks. So he still has the potential, just his confidence is shot. Can't get out of that. And once it does, he's going to be a very good player again. He has a couple other pros here. He's a very good depth player. That's something that I've noticed for really since his whole tenure with Flyers and in the NHL. He's a very good depth defenseman. He makes good plays. That Boston game, the game right before the Flyers, it was actually before the NHL like stopped the whole season and stuff like that. the last game the Flyers played this season, Ghost was phenomenal. And he came in because Phil Myers was injured. And he probably would have played those other 13 games, but that's a story that's been written and we'll never see the end of it. So it's like Ghost probably would have played, and I think with that Boston game, his confidence had to have grown. I just don't see how it didn't. He was very good. He reminded me of the old Ghost that I saw him, and he was very, very good in that game. So I think that would have probably continued. Now, obviously, we don't know that, and my theory is that probably would have continued, and he would have been playing better. His confidence might have gone up, and he probably could have maybe got himself a playoff game, or maybe even a series he could have continued in. Obviously, we don't know what was going to happen because obviously with Myers injured, he probably would have had to play. But you get my point. Some other cons. He's 27. Obviously, that's not the best age, but it's not a bad age. Kevin Hayes is also 27 as well. It doesn't necessarily matter, but for a business standpoint, if you are going to trade him, you have to look at something like that. His contract as well, 4.5 for the next 3 seasons. And two things here, he's just not great at defense in general, and he puts people in the wrong spot. Now there's been talk about him getting on the wing, or the Flyers trying to move him on the wing, which I personally don't think Chuck Fletcher would do that at all. He tried that with Brent Burns. We all saw how that panned out. And he learned his lesson, and really that's the story of Chuck Fletcher. He learned his lesson with everything that happened, with going from Minnesota to coming to here. He changed. He's a completely different GM, and that's why the Flyers are having such a good season. And the whole thing with Justin Braun, that if the Flyers try to re-sign Braun, the only way they can is if they trade Ghost. I don't really think that has any relevance to Justin Braun at all. I think they can still sign Braun without having to do anything with Ghost whatsoever. But even still, it's really not a bad topic. And again, I just wanted to get this video out there on my opinion on Ghost, because personally, I like Ghost, very good player, and I think he can come back if that confidence just gets back in him, and there's obviously a stretch of games where he can play and come back and be the player that we saw him to be. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Remember, guys, podcasts, articles, those links for my channel, and you probably noticed it by now. I switched up the room here. I'm on the other side of the room, which was the shelf back here and all this stuff. My bed is actually on this side. It used to actually be this way, going that way. Now I moved it where it's a long ways that way. So again, just a little bit different. I've kind of been getting bored throughout this whole thing, and that's why I've been making so many videos. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.